Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to be sharing my tips and tricks for making amazing whipped body butter products step by step. That's one question I get asked all the time, how I make my whipped body butter products. I sell my products online, but most times when I post clips of my body butter products, I get asked a lot of questions. So I hope this video provides some insight about my process. So I'm going to share what I do when I make my whipped body butter products. I also have some examples of some recipes, formulas. So let's jump right in. If this is the first time you're stopping by, my name is Esther and I make DIY hair and skincare videos. And I also sell my products on my website, and I also have online formulating classes. If you want to check any of these things out, I'll have all the links in the description box. So let's jump right in. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be talking about the traditional whipped body butter that is made of only oils and plant butters. So the anhydrous whipped body butter that has no water. So when I started making body butter products, I did not start out with my fluffy, creamy body butters that I have today. There were so many things I did not understand about the whole process of making body butter products. So this was one of my earlier body butter products. This was in 2020. And I actually thought my body butter products were amazing. But I just kept working on my body butter products to improve them. When I started my business in 2020, this is what I launched with. This is what was on my website. I thought I had the best body butter products. You couldn't tell me anything. But I just kept wanting to do better, wanting to make better products. So I kept researching, I kept practicing, kept trying to improve my formula. This was about 7 months in. So I started improving my formula, trying to do better. And then this was about almost a year into making body butter products. So I did have some improvement, and that was in my formula. So I'm going to share everything that I did to improve my body butter products. And before I forget, please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and also turn on your notifications so that way you don't miss any of my new videos, and that way you get the notification that I have a new video and you don't miss it. Thank you so much. And recapping the traditional whipped body butter, so it is anhydrous, oil based, doesn't contain any water, and it will typically melt when exposed to high heat, and it doesn't require a preservative. However, some people do add preservatives, but it really is not necessary. I have a video about preserving oil-based body butter products. I'll leave that linked in the description box. So choosing the right combination of butters and oils is usually the hardest part of formulating a whipped body butter product. So definitely check out that video because it's very, very detailed. But you need a good blend of your plant butters like your shea butter, cocoa butter, mango butter, your oils, coconut oil, sweet almond oil, apricot oil, grapeseed oil. There are so many options out there. So that's going to be the hardest part, choosing that right blend that feels good on the skin, that applies really well on the skin, that doesn't feel super heavy on the skin. So that's going to be the most important thing, choosing the right combination of your plant butters and oils. What should be in your body butter formula? You need a plant butter. Some plant butters that I like that I've used, shea butter, mango butter, aloe vera butter, hemp seed butter, cocoa butter, kokum butter. You also need a plant oil. So there's so many out there: sweet almond oil, jojoba, argan oil, sunflower oil, many options. You need an antioxidant, specifically vitamin E. That's going to help extend the shelf life of your body butter product. It's going to keep the oils, butters fresh, so they don't go rancid and have a funny smell. You might need a fragrance or essential oil. Those are optional. Arrowroot powder is very helpful for helping to cut down the greasy feeling. Things like stearic acid, beeswax, candelilla wax, micas, those are optional. It depends on if you're wanting to make your body butter harder so it doesn't melt as fast. So those are just additional ingredients to consider. But once again, choosing the blend of your plant butters, oils, that is going to be the hardest part, because there are so many great options that you can choose. So it depends on what you're going for, depends on what you have available to you as well. Cost. If you're a business, you might want to factor in the cost, the price of using certain butters and oils. So that is a must, just trying to figure out what you need to make your body butter product. Tips for percentages and ratios. So if you use a high percent of hard butters like cocoa butter, cocoa butter, even mango butter, your finished product is going to be a harder texture. So you want to use a happy medium of soft to hard plant butters. So shea butter, mango butter, cocoa butter. So you want to use a good combination of both. I'll give you an example very soon. So you can have a softer, fluffier finished product. So my tip is to use about 25 to 40% of oils. So that way you end up with a nice blend of a fluffy butter that's not too soft and that's not too hard. Here are some of some ratios and percentages I really like. So these are the most common ones I've used. So you want to keep in mind that the final consistency is going to vary depending on the final selection of your plant butters that you choose. What do I mean? So let's say I do 80% butter to 20% oil. And for my plant butter, I use something like cocoa butter that's super hard. If I use 80% cocoa butter and 20% oil, no matter how long I whip, it might stay fluffy at first, but it's going to harden up much more by the next day, because you're using a very hard plant butter. For my first formula, I used one plant butter, that's shea butter, and I just used coconut oil, jojoba oil, keeping it really simple. Most people have access to these ingredients, and you can end up with a really lovely, fluffy, creamy body butter using these percentages. Coconut oil I find to be a little bit heavy for me, so you can always swap it out for another oil, another light oil, and this is really just going to be a lovely body butter once you whip it up. Fragrance oil is optional, and it's going to depend on your supplier. I just put a general 2%. Some fragrances have a much lower percentage, so this is just as an example. The fragrance oil percentage will depend on your supplier, so follow that percentage guideline. Arrowroot powder, I usually don't factor it into the formula because it's an additional ingredient, meaning it's like an additive, and it is going to vary depending on how you want your finished product to feel. So you can adjust that in 1% increments up to 5% and do a batch testing to see if you like it. For Formula 2, I have a blend of 2 plant butters. I used shea butter and cocoa butter. So if you are going to use a hard butter like cocoa butter, mango butter, cocoa butter, you want to use it in a lower percentage. Shea butter is a soft butter that melts easily on contact. So that's why the percentages are the way they are. So always use a higher percentage of your softer butter and a lower percentage of the harder butter, and you can use any oil choice that you like, that you have available to you, that you like for your skin. Don't skip out or leave out the vitamin E. That is a must in the formula. Some people like the greasy feeling of their body butters, so if you're one of those people, you don't need to use arrowroot powder. but at the core of the formula, you need to figure out the percentages of your plant butter, your oils, vitamin E, fragrance oil, essential oil, if you plan on using this. But this is going to be a very lovely body butter as well. The body butter percentage is at 65%, so it is going to be a lovely blend. The oils are at about 32%. If you don't know how to convert from percentages to your batch size, like grams or ounces, I'll leave my video explaining how to do this. It's going to be linked in the description box. I'm going to talk about the body butter process. So I like to start by melting down the hardest butter first. So something like cocoa butter, mango butter, even kokum butter, they have a much higher melting point. So it takes them longer to melt than shea butter, maybe aloe vera butter, avocado butter. So start out with the hardest butter. You can make a water bath, low heat, and just gently melt it down. You don't need high heat to melt down your butters. And then just follow up with the rest of your plant butters, like your shea butter, even your hard oils like coconut oil. You want to preserve the amazing benefits of these plant butters and oils, so just gently melt them down. I don't like using a microwave. I always recommend doing a water bath to gently melt down your plant butters and hard oils. Moving on to the cooling and freezing process. So for my liquid plant oils, like my sweet almond oil, apricot oil, grapeseed oil, those type of oils, they do not need to be heated up at all. They are already in liquid state. So that's what I have here. I'm just going to add my melted plant butters and oils, and that's what I'm just going to mix up. Since my mixture is still hot, I'm going to let it cool down so it's not so hot before I cover it up. And I usually place in the freezer to speed up the process of cooling it down. I cool it down till it's semi-solid. So it really depends on how big of a batch size I'm making. But you don't want to place your oil mixture when it's so hot in the freezer. You just want to cool it down before you place in the freezer until it is semi-solid. Whipping your body butter. So you can either use a stand mixer or a hand mixer. But I will say, if you have a small batch, use a hand mixer. The stand mixer doesn't mix small batches very well. So once the mixture is semi-solid, I'm going to show you an example of what I like my consistency to be. But once it is semi-solid, then you can start whipping up your body butter. So now there's a whole debate of how long should you whip your body butter for. But once I have the consistency or the texture that I like, that's when I stop. So what do I mean? Once I have my I start whipping my body butter, I always start on low speed. So it could be anywhere from 1 to 2 on your hand mixer or on your stand mixer, but always on low speed for the first 3 to 4 minutes, and then I increase the speed to a medium speed. It really depends on your settings. I don't know exactly what mine are, but I think it's anywhere, the medium speed is anywhere from 4 to 5. So on medium speed, I'm going to whip for an additional 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes. It really depends on how the consistency becomes. But once I get a light, fluffy consistency, then I stop. I forgot to mention that you also want to scrape down the sides of your mixing bowl, so that way everything can be evenly whipped, like your shea butter or your plant butter mixture, so you don't have chunks of plant butter. So that's what I forgot to mention. So scrape down the sides and then just keep mixing. But what I will say is there's no reason to whip your body butter products for 30 minutes. I've never whipped my body butter products that long. 10 minutes 10 minutes or so should be more than sufficient to get a lovely fluffy consistency.
Don't leave me here.
Once I've gotten the consistency that I like for my body butter, then I'll add my additives, like my arrowroot powder, fragrance, essential oils. I'll add it at this stage. But if you don't want to use arrowroot powder, you can leave that out. But it's very helpful to help reduce the greasy feeling. So I add some arrowroot powder, just mix that in, and then I'll also add in my essential oils. I have 2 detailed videos. I'll leave everything linked in the description box. How to cut down the greasy feeling of your body butter products, and also how to scent your body butter products. So everything will be linked in the description box. So once you add your arrowroot powder, your essential oil, fragrance oil, all you need to do is mix for an additional minute or so, just to get everything blended into the whipped body butter. How do you avoid grainy body butter? So what even causes it? So sometimes you might make a body butter product and you might see little tiny chunks or little tiny bits and pieces of your shea butter or your plant butter. So what causes this? Sometimes if the heat that you use to melt your butter is too hot, it can cause it. Or if you don't cool down your mixture quickly enough, it can also happen. So how can you avoid this? Just don't overheat your butter, your hard oils. Use a water bath or double boiler. Slowly heat these plant butters. Don't use a microwave. And also you don't want to degrade the wonderful benefits of these plant oils, but slowly heat and then let it cool down slowly. Once you take it off the heat, and then freeze it. I find that when I do these 2 things, I never ever have grainy body butter products. Moving on to the best part, piping your body butter. So here's my disclaimer. I'm not the best body butter piper, if there's such a term like that. But this is what I do. I use the Glad press and seal. That's what I use to pipe, but I will leave everything I use in the description box. So all I do is I pull out enough of a sheet that I need to pipe, and then I just place my whipped body butter on there. You don't want to fill it up too much, so I just put enough in there. I use a 18-inch piping bag, I believe that's the size. So don't fill your press and seal bag too much. So once everything is in there, I just kind of spread it out so it's not just a huge stack of body butter. So you want to make sure that the sticky part of the press and seal is what sticks together. So that's what my body butter is sitting on. And so once you put the 2 pieces together, they should seal up together. Hopefully that makes sense. So there's a sticky part, so that's what you're going to put together, the 2 pieces, and they're going to just press in and seal your body butter. So I use a reusable piping bag. I don't use the plastic ones anymore, and I use my piping tape. I put that in my reusable piping bag, and then I use the press and seal, fill that in, and I just begin piping. There are many videos on YouTube about piping body butter products, so you can always do a search on YouTube. There are so many amazing videos with colors and all that wonderful stuff, but I don't use colors, I don't use micas. So I just pipe it into my jars. I always tap down so that way some of the air can kind of go down, because this is a whipped body butter, so you are introducing air into the whipped body butter mixture. But this is what I have. This is what mine is looking like. So I just repeat the whole process over and over until I have filled out all my containers. So here's my recap. I placed the body butter on the sticky part of the press and seal. I seal the two sides together, and then I forgot to mention, I tie both ends, and then I cut off one part with a pair of scissors, and I just slide that into my reusable piping bag and begin the process of piping. The reusable piping bags are amazing. You just wash it each time you use it in some warm soapy water, let it air dry, and you can use it over and over and over again, and you're also doing something good for the environment. So that's how I do the piping part of the body butter process. And I got this tip or this method from the Ashanti collection. They're an amazing body butter company, and they have their YouTube channel as well. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the texture check. So I get asked a lot of the time about my body butter products, if they remain soft, if they remain fluffy, if it's going to change in consistency. Yes, it's going to change because it is a butter product. So even though when you whip it up it's so light and airy, once it settles down, it is going to change in consistency. So an example for you here is a body butter that I made December of 2022. These are one of the samples I keep for myself to test. But this is what it's looking like almost 7 months later. I'm going to show you what the texture looks like. So I just used a little scoop, and it's still soft, it's still fluffy. It did not change in that sense after 7 months, but it did firm up more than the initial airy whipped body butter product that I made. Now the goal is to not have a rock hard body butter after a few days. So this is 7 months in, and this is what the texture is looking like. Baby, you give me ice and fire. For my second sample, this was made October of 2022. Another sample product that I keep for also testing purposes. But this is what the this sample body butter looks like. Same thing, it's still soft. It's not a rock hard body butter, so it's still a soft fluffy butter, but it is much firmer than the initial state when I piped this body butter. So that's the goal. You don't want a body butter that is soft and fluffy, and then the next day or two it turns into something that is so rock hard and difficult to use. See how soft and easy this is to apply, and this was done October of 2022. So I hope you enjoyed this video. You enjoyed my tips, my tricks. I know it was a long one, but please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And please, most importantly, please like this video, because that really helps. Leave a comment down below. Leave a heart sign, a heart emoji. And if you have any questions, leave them for me in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.